Item number 10, and there was some discussion about this, and it wasn't real lengthy, but it was at least one of the points, again, discussed on Wednesday last. The 4 lots being created along relocated Bel Air Drive should contain the same restrictions that are now being reimposed on the Bel Air subdivision. They should be used for single family. Actually, what was said at the time was they should be used for residential purposes only. Now, I note that it's single family purposes only. At that time on Wednesday, I expressed my views about deed restrictions generally, about my proclivity or predisposition to be opposed to deed restrictions. And I told them a number of reasons for that. We discussed it. I made my points, I thought, at the time. Upon reflection, I've thought of some other things that I think are pertinent to point out on the issue of deed restrictions, saying this should be residential and or single family purpose only. It's my understanding that the town of Farragut is committed to looking at revising your zoning ordinance to create a zoning classification for churches and make that specific zoning classification for churches. If that is true, that's a good reason not to worry about deed restrictions on this property. It is zoned residential now. I don't remember exactly the classification, but it's zoned residential now. And if you do that, there's no need to be deed restricting this property in that fashion. I think I made the point was that I find many times with deed restrictions, years into the future, that deed restriction comes back to bite you. If you looked at the area, I don't say it is likely. I don't say it's going to happen, but I say it's a possibility. The time may come when the area of Shiloh that property may be worth too much to continue to use for residential purposes. Somebody someday may buy a whole big bunch of property and have something else as a proposed utilization of that property and those 4 houses sitting there. If that other use wasn't residential, they'd be an island in there. And it might be appropriate that they be taken in at the time that other proposed utilization was being done. And that utilization may be something virtually everybody wants to see happen. But you're stuck with deed restrictions and you can't do anything about it. I suggest to you that there's adequate protection for the neighborhood interest and the town's interest, that it shouldn't be necessary to deed restrict those 4 lots. They can be used right now for residential purposes. That's what we propose to use them for. And you're probably in the not too far distant future going to create a new zoning classification that would clearly have the effect of keeping them residential until such time as this town thought it would be appropriate to rezone them to something else. So our answer to that is no, and it was reinforced by the situation where we are right now, is that I haven't seen those restrictions yet. I have asked for them more than once. I still haven't seen them. I do not know, and I haven't been told how many people in the Bel Air are willing to submit to those restrictions. I don't know anything about it, and I haven't, as I say, seen them. So I haven't had time to review them, talk to my client about them, or evaluate them as to whether there were any other problems or issues about it. I've given you my response to the question about deed restrictions on the basis of my personal thoughts and beliefs and an analysis of the current and future situation with regard to those 4 lots. So our answer to that one is we are unwilling to do that.